Welcome to the Crockpot on School on Air Network. I'm happy to have you all here today as you can come on over to see what's cooking. And to start off, what better than a couple of knockouts in the Jorge Masvidal and the Ben Askren matchup that took place over 8 months ago. And as we're gearing up to get ready for the Jake Paul versus Ben Askren boxing match this Saturday. Very excited for Triller to be able to bring us that matchup. There's a lot to be talked about, a lot to be said for that. And of course, Jake Paul with that match against Nate Robinson. Yes, it was Nate Robinson. How could you forget how he lie on the floor like a baby gone to sleep after that knockout? We'll have more on that later on. And I do want to bring you the ingredients to make up the entire recipe for today. And the first being Aaron Donald being charged with assault. Now, when you think about this, it's very interesting to be able to see because, well, this gentleman, this DeVincent Spriggs, I do believe. Now, first off, what does Aaron Donald have to do in Pittsburgh? Well, if you don't know, he's from Pittsburgh, right? He's also a member of, or an alumni from University of Pitt. Now, I have to say, usually when you're an athlete, and you don't have any OTAs, you don't have much going on right now, you're probably hanging out at home, you go and you hang out, you talk to some old friends, rekindle old relationships, right? The restrictions are being lifted here in America and a lot of places, and we're going to get to that later on where some of the cases are on a rise. But for the time being, I'm Aaron Donald. I'm out for a trip with the boys. Me and the boys, as Saturdays are for, we go on down to the club. A little late night action, I want to go ahead and grab some drinks, get a little section, and, I brushed the shoulder of another individual. Well, that might be a problem for someone else, but if I'm 6 foot, 300 pounds, built like a brick house, I don't care who's brushing up against me. I'm not going to be fazed by it. I probably didn't feel it. But, needless to say, this gentleman, DeVincent Spriggs, all of a sudden decides that maybe he wants to, and the report just came out today from the hired attorney from Aaron Donald that, hey, he was in an altercation. Spriggs had swung a bottle, which Donald was then able to elude by ducking, and then friends pounced on him. So they say that there's video evidence regarding that Spriggs was not attacked by Donald and actually was aided to after people pounced on Spriggs, that Donald was the one to help him out of that situation. Someone came to his aid and said, yo, Aaron, we got to get the hell out of here. All right, this is not a good look. Kind of seems like there could be some false things in there, maybe some things the attorney said. Regardless, if I'm 300 pounds, I'm a 7-time Pro Bowler, and I'm a multi-year Defensive Player of the Year, I'm not messing with you, DeVincent Spriggs. I've almost messed up your name. I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are. I mean, look at that face. Who could love a face like that? And I'll tell you, it was already ugly before he had that big old eye like that. I know it for a fact. It was already, and I couldn't even find information on this man. I could not find any information on this man online. And everything's online. Maybe I just didn't dig enough. Maybe he's just not popular enough. I couldn't find it. No Social Security, no Twitter, no Instagram, none of that. All right, so Spriggs, I don't know who you are, but what would provoke you to antagonize this man? What would provoke you to do that? Have you seen Aaron Donald? He's huge. This man has a six-pack. He looks like The Rock, a shorter Rock, okay? He's 6 foot. He's 300 pounds, okay? When he walks, he's just scary to look at. And I don't even know if you've seen him smile sometimes, probably when he's getting sacks and stuff on the field, but that is one scary man. Come on now. Are you serious? I'm not touching that. I'm not doing that. Man, I want to give a shout to my producer right now. Pretty boy, is there any reason at all why you feel as if it would be okay to say something, let alone touch Aaron Donald?
I can't find the words or a reason to believe why anyone would be even if you brush up against Aaron Donald, it's more like, excuse me, Mr. Donald, I'm sorry. I don't think Spriggs, you should be trying to swing a bottle at that man right there. Like it could nothing good can happen of this. Even if you hit him with this bottle, what physically good could happen to you?
I'll tell you what good could happen to you. A check, my man. And if you're okay with getting a check and your face being uglier than it was before you entered the club, I don't know if the girls left your section to be with Donald. I don't know what it was that happened, but for whatever reason, you felt as if you should swing a bottle at this man. And I know it's not in stone. I know it's not end all be all. That's the last thing that I'm doing. I'm saying, oh, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't realize that. Can I get you a drink? I don't swing a bottle at that man. What is wrong with you?
You know what, man? He maybe was you right, the check and trying to make a name for himself, but like you swung and you missed, and now it's video footage that he didn't even assault you, so you just took this L, and there's no check coming. There's no check.
No check. And see, now you're broke just the way you were. And guess what? I have a feeling that the stimulus checks, that they're finished. That's done now. So I don't know where you were before or where you're going. I had read, and that could be false as well, he has some ties to Washington State. Regardless, and that could be a different DeVincent Spriggs. I don't know how many of you there are out there. I'm Julian Jackson. I know there's about 180 of them, as it said on Facebook when I did this little thing a few years back. So I don't know, and I don't care. And I'm not confused as the boxer Julian Jackson from the 80s. That's who I'm not, okay? And don't try to come at me because I'll run. I'll be real. I got the hands, but I'm going to take a flight, all right? Because I'm not trying to catch a check, and I know where I need to be. And one thing that I know that might provoke someone to do something like that is Rumplemans. Don't touch the Rumples. Don't touch the Rumplemans, all right? Stay off the cold liquor that sits inside of the freezer, because that would be one of the only things that provokes you to do something crazy like that. I mean, just don't touch this man. There's no reason. There's no reason to do anything like that. It's absolutely despicable. And I'll tell you, you should feel sorry for yourself. And you should feel sorry for anyone else who's coming to your aid, because I don't know who's going to be taking care of your lawyers. It's a problem, and you brought this problem onto yourself. Okay, Mr. Spriggs? And that's all I'll say about that. Don't touch the 7-time Pro Bowler, okay? And as a matter of fact, if I'm a pro and I'm visiting friends and family, the last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you, come on, man, and I'm going to brush you off. But what I will end up doing, okay, is telling you, hey, man, look, you don't want these problems. I will at least let you know, unless everyone was trash, but you know how long it might take a 300-pound man to get lit up in the club off of liquor? I don't want to know. That's too much. That's got to be bottles on bottles on bottles. And the fact that his friends came to his aid and Aaron Donald can handle himself at 300-plus pounds of solid brick, yeah, you're going to lose that battle 10 times out of 10. That's a 100% of the time. With more NFL news for you, I want to bring to the table that there are teams that are now opting out of voluntary workouts. Why would one opt out of a voluntary workout? Well, it shouldn't really be a problem if you won the Super Bowl, you know? So one of those teams being Tampa Bay. And the Buccaneers, do you remember this time last year, or maybe it was a couple months down the road from a year ago, and Tom Brady was in Tampa, and he was out at a park, and he was throwing around the football. To me, there's no reason why they can't skip. Shoot, voluntary workouts, OTAs, whatever. It's not rocket science to me that Bruce Arians and Tom Brady have it going on. Are they going to really miss? Now, they're doing workouts from Skype. You've got guys working out. But like I said, Tom Brady was out throwing the ball amidst a pandemic, a shutdown in Florida last year. And someone had to tell him to go home. They realized it was Tom Brady. And they're like, oh, well, Mr. Brady, you know? I mean, come on. Tom Brady doing whatever he wants. You know, he walked into the house of someone who wasn't. He thought it was Byron Leftwich's house, walked in the wrong house next door. You remember that? I mean, they're not going to have an issue. Another team, Seattle Seahawks. Now, and I haven't read up too much on the COVID cases there, but one of the main driving forces for them cutting off their voluntary workouts is because the rise in cases in some places. Now, I can see that when it would come to, you know, perhaps Denver, which has a large rise in cases, or the fact that Detroit is completely out of control right now, which, mind you, I have a friend of mine and sources, like Adam Schefter, I'll just give you the sources, okay? They were up driving for DoorDash all last year. We got dispensaries open, restaurants coming through, being able to get whatever you can get, hitting licks on over $500 a day. Now, that's all right. I know takeout and everything was cool. You know, dispensaries are, they're run by the state. Those things have to stay open because it's for medical use. You have liquor stores also run by the state. I don't know if you can say that that's for medical use. However, okay, cool. And then food, obviously, the necessary ingredient that you need to be able to survive as a human being, and water, right? But there were still people out and about. So I don't know what their shutdown was really like, but they've got to get it together. And if you just look to see the correlation between some of these, I also understand that Denver now has more cases positive than what they had this time last year during the shutdown, or more positive cases at this time than what they had before. And maybe that's because everyone loosened up restrictions. Now there's more positive cases, not to say that there's more hospitalizations, but I'm not here to be Dr. Fauci for you. What I am here to point out is the fact that if you look at the records of these teams and you're worried more about who's going to be winning, or whether the fact that you're going to have competitiveness in the NFL, you cannot look to the likes of teams like the Detroit Lions or the Denver Broncos to keep the league afloat. Pretty boy, when was it the last time that Detroit won the division? I believe that you said it was in the 80s?
Detroit, no, the last time they won the division was 1993, and it was the NFC Central Division that does not even exist any longer.
Well,
so, I just think that the Detroit Lions are the worst franchise ever in the NFL. I pray that my man Justin Fields don't go there. I mean, I don't wish that on anyone. They as a franchise have had some of the best players ever in history, like a Barry Sanders, like a Calvin Johnson. Some of you could say these are the best players at their position all time, and you don't even have any playoff wins with these guys, like, honestly. So when it comes to Detroit, I just have no faith in anything they do.
Well, and I can appreciate that because I really don't either. The numbers don't lie, all right? You look at two teams, the bottom of our list,
Thank you.
11-5 for the Detroit Lions, 11-5. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Pull that back. 5-11 for the Detroit Lions, 5-11 for the Denver Broncos. 12-4 for the Seattle Seahawks. 11-5, and just second in their division, yet Super Bowl champs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, let me tell you this. Why is it that Seahawks and Tampa Bay aren't going to have an issue with skipping out on workouts? Because they're getting in more now than what they were getting in when they were doing this whole thing last year. The teams that need to be figuring out a quarantine, the teams that need to be staying in hotels, the teams that need to be wearing double masks and getting vaccinated, those are the teams like Detroit in Denver. And no matter how you feel about vaccinations and everything else going on during this pandemic, which it's still a pandemic, we still have major issues. Those are the teams that need to be worried about this, not Seattle and not Tampa Bay. And if you're gonna jump on a bandwagon, I mean, I'm just like done with it. You know, Denver sucks, Detroit sucks, Seattle's not gonna have an issue. Tampa Bay might repeat. Pretty boy, why should this be a concern for the NFL? Is there any reason why this should be a concern for the NFL?
Say, yeah, there should be a concern if cases are going up. Things haven't changed that much since last year, have they? That we would be able to literally just be back out here like nothing's going on. We made a big deal about it last year, and now it's kind of like we're sweeping it under the rug, the whole situation and what it's about. So either we're going to be all in or we're going to be all out, and I think that's what some of the players and some of the teams are saying, that it's worse than it was last year, and we canceled all of this stuff, and now we're willing to go ahead with it, and you're talking about having fans in the stands this year. I just think it's a far-fetched, and it's a far cry from where we were a year ago and how we're handling the situation, and I just think players don't feel it's safe. So I'm with them on this one.
Well, I appreciate that. And these are voluntary workouts. We're not to the point where it's organized team activities. We're not yet to the point where you need to begin panicking, because you have so much going on right now, and yet there's still things that can get better, but let's just not take steps back. And in order for, I'm sure that these aren't the only teams we're going to see who are opting out, and so we're going to keep our eye on this ahead of the NFL draft, which I want to take a moment to be able to note and promote that here at Score on Air, we're going to be running our very own NFL draft special on the draft night. I do believe that is April 29th. I'll get confirmation on that. It's going to be Thursday, April 29th, right here at the Columbus campus, and we're going to have many other campuses getting involved as well for this footage. Unable to be able to make it up to Cleveland. For some reason, they had a shortage of press passes, and I don't, whatever. That's fine. We could have masked up and been up there, but I'm happy to be right here where I am in Columbus, delivering the latest in draft news for you. So, with that being said, we do have some more NFL news, but we'll go ahead and place that on hold as we are going to be taking a break here shortly. And then when we come back, we're going to be getting into Jamal Murray's ACL tear, what that means for his team, which is likely not a lot, okay? LaMarcus Aldridge retiring because of a heart issue. Also, bringing to you Kyrie Irving and Dennis Schroder being ejected from a game last week and the effects that that has on the Brooklyn Nets and where they might be going. We're watching the Crockpot on Score on Air.
Do you have design ideas for t-shirts but you're not sure where to go? Go to Mojo Sports Gear. That's right, Mojo Sports Gear. At Mojo Sports Gear, you can get custom-made shirts. Whatever design you need, Mojo Sports Gear can provide it. Don't forget to grab a custom-made cap on your way out and rock the best headgear in the game. Give them a call at 614-864-6656. That's 614-864-6656.
In sports, you want to have a player that can get the job done right every time. A real all-star, somebody that's dependable and you can turn to when the game is tough. That player in the audio-video industry is the theater people. From setting up your home's Wi-Fi network and offices, conference rooms, to setting up home theater inside or outside, to setting up the systems to make your home run smarter and safer as well. The theater people can do it all with the quality of professionalism you can expect every single time. That isn't just a great all-around player. That is an all-star. That is why we are the leaders in audio-visual installation in Central Ohio. So call us at 614-604-6327. Or check out our website at ttpcolumbus.com to figure out which products will fit you. And don't forget, amplify your personality with the theater.
Do you have design ideas for t-shirts but you're not sure where to go? Go to Mojo Sports Gear. That's right, Mojo Sports Gear. At Mojo Sports Gear, you can get custom-made shirts. Whatever design you need, Mojo Sports Gear can provide it. Don't forget to grab a custom-made cap on your way out and rock the best headgear in the game. Give them a call at 614-864-6656. That's 614-864-6656.
In sports, you want to have a player that can get the job done right every time. A real all-star, somebody that's dependable and you can turn to when the game is tough. That player in the audio-video industry is the theater people. From setting up your home's Wi-Fi network and offices, conference rooms, to setting up home theater inside or outside, to setting up the systems to make your home run smarter and safer as well. The theater people can do it all with the quality of professionalism you can expect every single time. That isn't just a great all-around player, that is an all-star. That is why we are the leaders in audiovisual installation in Central Ohio. So call us at 614-604-6327. Or check out our website at ttpcolumbus.com to figure out which products will fit you. And don't forget, amplify your personality with the theater.
I'm bothered by the fact that not only did Kyrie Irving miss some time earlier on this season for personal reasons, and we don't necessarily have to get into that because it's personal, and that's fine. But, you know, as a human being, when you're on a salary, when you're on pay, period, right, you get some paid time off, you get sick leave, you get personal time, you get personal days. Even as a teacher, you know, you were afforded with sick days, you were afforded with personal days. And all that being appreciated by the employee and dished out by the employer to say, hey, you're good to be able to have time off. What bothers me most is the fact that Kyrie Irving is not doing what it is that he's supposed to be doing in his role. Now, maybe he feels as if it's a big three and that he doesn't necessarily have to be there the entire time. Maybe he doesn't necessarily believe in his team. But even after the ejection from the other day, which we're going to go ahead and take a look at, he took like the day off after. And Kyrie is not necessarily a leader, and what you're going to end up seeing here is the altercation between the two of them. But even more bothersome is the fact that he has this altercation, he's talking smack with Schroder, he's going back and forth, but even thereafter he gets the technical. He ends up, they continue to jaw at each other, continue to talk smack. And then he gets thrown out first. But at the point when he goes and takes off his jersey and he's walking off the court as if it's the last game that's going to be played. And one of my biggest pet peeves, and I use this analogy often, or this metaphor rather, is the take the ball and go home personality. You know, oh, I'm done with this. I'm mad at you. Oh, pretty boy, I'm out. I'm good. You know, you're the guy who brought the basketball to the court, right? You're playing with all your friends, and all of a sudden, maybe you don't get picked first. So then you take the ball and you go home. And he's just pouty to me, man. He's pouty to me, and that's not the traits that I want in a leader of my team. That's not someone who I want to be a part of my team necessarily. And I get it. When you're a coach and you're younger, now, and I had brought this up earlier on or the other day when I was talking with some colleagues of mine, and the fact that, yo, Kyrie, you're not top 5 in the NBA right now. So you pouting and doing stuff I feel like as if you should be holding yourself to a higher standard. You're just like, why are you acting like a baby, man? Man, I really don't like him, and I loved when he was a part of the team with LeBron, and then he did that whole thing, went up to Boston, and still wasn't the it guy. So someone please tell me something different. Why is it that I'm just at a loss here. Why is this not working out? Is it because Steve Nash is in that position and he feels like he can do whatever he wants? When there's a disparity between the relationship that you have with teammates and coworkers, right? And then the relationship that you have with your boss. Let's say you played with, or you were an employee, okay? You were coworkers with someone, and then they get promoted to be your boss. So being so close in age, does it hurt that Steve Nash is the coach here in this program and with this franchise? And that, it seems like there's a bit of a loss of control and they're trading that in for the talent that they've got. Am I wrong about this? Pretty boy, is there anything that you would like to touch on here? I believe we were having this conversation the other day.
Man, we touched on it, and I just don't like the hire as Steve Nash as the coach. I didn't. And it's not to take nothing away from Steve Nash, but like when you put a big three together, they rarely ever get it done the first time out. I mean, the Boston Celtics were an outlier, okay? You put them together, they got it done. But like it's so hard when you think that you're just going to roll out of here with talent. And like Kyrie Irving's a head case. Let's just be honest. He's a head case. That's why they went out and got James Harden, believe it or not. You know what I mean? You didn't know what you were going to get from Kyrie night in and night out. And this is your simple factor of he might go off the deep end and then he needs time off. Like, how many guys argue with guys all the time in the league? How many people get called out their name on a nightly basis and come to work and clock in, don't need time off? Every now and then a cat loses it. A guy loses it on the refs. A Draymond Green guy get ejected. It happens. You play 82 games. You got to see a lot of these refs 30 times or so. You know what I mean? You're interacting with these people all the time. You might be a hangover from last game, a little annoyance. Those things happen. Those things are allowed. They are a part of the game, man. But for him, he's just always you're just whiny. You know what I mean? I often say to people like that, man, save some wine for the kids, man. You know what I mean? Leave all that whining to the kids, because like you can argue, you can fight, you can be all of that. You can be aggressive, but like you said, man, it's like when he gets upset, he wants to take his ball and he wants to go home, and that's why they went out and got Harden, because I don't think they trusted Kyrie when it counts. So
now, do you remember they didn't yet have James Harden when he took time off earlier on? I believe it was during like the start of the season, and the restrictions were still pretty heavy in places. And being in New York, he went to go visit his sister for her birthday, and he was caught down there not wearing a mask. Do you recall this event?
Dance machine. You know what I mean? I remember that was right before they went and got Harden. You're right, exactly. And I think that had a lot to do with it, because you can't trust him. And even in a situation playing against the underhanded Lakers, who are beat up, who don't have their best players playing, this is almost like a mental statement game throughout the league, and you find a way to get yourself thrown out, and you are one of the most important players. Like, if anybody can't afford to lose anybody, it's Brooklyn. They can't afford to lose a Durant, a Harden, a Kyrie. That is so thin out there. They are so top-heavy that they can't afford to lose a player like that and think that they're still going to make that run. They need everybody. And especially now they lost Aldridge too. So
they needed all the big guns. They have what they need to keep it rolling. But we also talked about Steve Nash is not Eric Spoelstra. And Spoelstra didn't even win the championship when he had Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James come down there in the first season. Now, there was all this hype. Brooklyn is the best team in the East. And Brooklyn just got done by Ben Simmons and them dudes the other day. I mean, Doc Rivers, to me, he's got too much time on him, and taking a team and building Philly to where they are now is going to be the strongest competitor, I believe, in the East, because Boston has completely been they fell apart completely.
They've been up
done
and
so many
down.
different things. Go ahead.
They've been up and down. They've been helter-skelter this year, but when it comes down to it, man, like a team like Boston can surprise you because they have so much length. They have so many wing players, and Jason Tatum is so close to turning that corner of superstardom. It only takes a playoff run, really. You're dropping 30 every night, man, and then you become that young star to that superstar. It only really takes one run. So if he comes into that run, he could do some damage.
But Boston is a system-based franchise under Brad Stevens, and we know this, and that kind of thing has worked in the past, but it didn't work with Kyrie. So that could have been the cancer that they cut out. They also got rid of Hayward, who was a great player, and he had that injury, and they didn't get as much out of him as I believe that they had wanted to. But you know what? I mean, with that said, what some may call the best rivalry in NBA basketball played last night, and Jaylen Brown had over 30. So they won that game. It was like 117 or one and some change versus like 102. I believe Boston beat LA last night. So you're not wrong about that. And then peaking at the right time, anything could happen. But as far as the Nets go, back to the Nets, their lack of leadership and not having any of these guys, you can lead the team. I mean, you can always have somebody lead by example. You can have someone who's great and go out there and do all the right things. But you can also have guys who go out and score perhaps 60 points in a game and you still lose. That's not what you want to see, and that's not what should be happening. In my opinion, it's going to take a whole lot more for the Nets to be able to get back in track and hit a stride to where they're going to make the Eastern Conference playoff.
You know what, man? And I just want to bring up something that I heard by we talked about Dwayne Wade earlier, and congratulations on purchasing of the team. But Dwayne Wade said something. I was watching him on a podcast, and he said after they lost that first title that, they were all stars, but they were still young guys. He said a guy like Udonis Haslem sat those young guys down and had a talk about how great they could be and how great they are. Now, Udonis Haslem is an average player. He's never going to be a Hall of Famer. But I don't know if Brooklyn has that type of leadership. Because, see, like a Derek Fisher on the Lakers team, like you bow down to Kobe and you do whatever he says, but like the guy after Kobe comes and chews you out, the guy that comes put his hands on your shoulder, tell you going to be all right, you got the next one. I don't know if they have that guy, and you're going to need a guy like that. I don't know if they have that true leader of the locker room. And if you don't have a guy like that, it makes it very, very difficult. Even like the Shaq and Kobe Lakers had a guy like Robert Horry. Like these are guys that are not the best player on the team, but are veterans, have been around, well respected, and are true professionals, and people, follow them.
And I believe that's something that they have a lack of that type of leadership. Not just being like the leader, not just being the captain, because anyone can wear a C on their jersey. But much like Harden, you can be a star and not be a leader. And there are some guys who aren't the stars, some guys who perhaps aren't the starters. Now, I know Derek Fisher was, and I always liked Derek Fisher. I didn't always like Kobe when he was playing and all that. But Derek Fisher, for some reason, he just seemed that, I have always been more so on the side of the Robin than the side of the Batman. I was a Knuckles guy and not a Sonic the Hedgehog. I was more the Diddy Kong than the Donkey. The Luigi, not the Mario. So I think y'all get the point. Those members, those individuals play large roles in whatever capacity that they're operating in. And it is essential to be able to have some of those. And right now, I would like to be able to see somebody like Blake Griffin emerge with the Nets. Because, and it was actually very funny, he was clapping right after he went to the Nets. He was sitting on the bench with the Nets, and they hosted Detroit, or they were in Detroit playing. And as a Detroit player had scored, you catch Blake Griffin, with his mask hanging right below the nose like they all do, and he's just clapping, and then he looks up and realizes, oh, man, that was Detroit. Like, I don't play with them anymore. He's always seemed to be like a real team guy. Him building a foundation the way that he did when he was with LA and playing with the Clippers, playing with Chris Paul, that to me is the type of guy that I would like to have on my team. And it might take a little while to come around, but if they want to make any sort of a run and impact this year, I don't know if he's got all the gas and all the juice that he needs to be able to make this happen. But I would like to be able to see Blake Griffin because he's a very likable guy. I believe that he would be the one to emerge in this. Kevin Durant, Harden, Kyrie, they seem more the personality that's just going to write you off. If you're not going to help me out, screw you. What have you done for me lately? That kind of deal. And, we need less guys who are going to say, take the ball, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home, and more guys to be able to step up for the team. So, that's the basis there. And I know that we've spent more than enough time on that topic, but I also want to bring to light that one of the excuses that Kyrie had made was, pardon it being an excuse, but one of the things that he said in his anger and his disdain with the situation, with the double technicals that led to that, and him taking off his jersey, which I still just don't understand, was the fact that an N-word was exchanged between Schroder and him. And we discussed it on here before when we were talking about death threats a few weeks back with EJ Liddell. It sticks and stones, man, and I get it because he's had I had read an article, he's had a larger role in the Black Lives Matter movement and in many other capacities. But Kyrie Irving, for all of his pettiness, it seems to me that, he would definitely go ahead and take a tech and leave the game because, a racial slur rather was used. And I think some people may question, oh, okay, well, Schroeder's black too. Maybe it's because Schroeder's from Germany, that he's German. I don't know. I've been trying to piece that stuff together, and I couldn't reach Kyrie for a comment. But to me, be the bigger man, have that conversation with him later. If he had said something in this, but there was an article where, someone had gotten in touch with him, ended up saying, I'm not an N, I'm not this, we've come way too far for this and that. And I don't know, man. I believe that and that's something we could pick up too with, at another time, and another episode. That's probably more so of a conscious by nature talk. Shout out the episode coming on tonight. Make sure you check that out with Money Mac. But for me, I don't know. It's I need Kyrie to do better, and I don't really care if he does do better. But to me, he's too much, and he's got to figure something out for himself if his team wants to continue to win. So as it comes to a great NBA player right now, and the guy in his second season with Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray's ACL tear is huge. And while he was able to take his team in the bubble beyond the first round all the way up until they ran into the monster that was the Clippers, the guy has played incredible. And he's not to be messed with. That dude can play some ball. And Jamal Murray, for me, if you're a younger guy and you're watching him, that's something that you're looking toward. You're striving to be someone like that because that's a young guy, and other guys from his team look at him and they marvel. And they're saying, man, this cat is this dude is nice. He's good. He's able to do some things that you have guys like Kyrie that won't, right? Maybe they're putting in the additional effort. They're staying a little, time after practice, getting there a little early. Jamal Murray seems to be a model player when it comes to, his franchise. And it's just upsetting that he's not going to be able to continue on this year. And given the fact that this has been a condensed schedule, that they started in December, and then all of a sudden now you're crunching all these games in together, do you feel as if this is something that could have quite possibly been something that led to his injury? And you see this all the time. I mean, if you're going to be a freak athlete, you're a freak athlete. Some people go all the time without getting hurt, and you see how much LeBron James spends on his body year in and year out. But an ACL is something a little bit different. And it's not something, I haven't seen all of Jamal Murray's history in sports, but, you know, to my understanding, this is his first ACL tear or ACL injury, put him out for the season. Is this as a result of their condensed schedule? And why would that actually be important? Pretty boy, do you have anything as far as the condensed schedule goes, and, you know, Jamal Murray not being able to, you know, to move forward this year? I mean, they're obviously hurting without him.
You know, I just don't see where they're going to be able to do a whole lot of anything without Jamal Murray, to tell you the truth. He's such a special player. They run that offense where Jokic is at the top of the three-point line, and they run this kind of wheel action with him and Murray, and he runs around, and either he'll get it and shoot the three or cut down the middle of the lane, or they'll run a double team and the Joker will get the ball to the corner, or he'll dribble drive himself. It's a really fun offense to watch, and really creative offense. Man, they're gonna miss him. They're like his ability to score the ball from anywhere. He's not as accurate or shoot with a percentage, but he does have the Curry and Dame Lillard range at times where he can just pull up and just fire. So you're gonna miss a lot with Jamal Murray not being there.
I mean, you're right. Nikola Jokic is not going to be able to do all of that on his own, though he is an incredible player. It's upsetting. You know, I believe, was that Jokic or was that Doncic the other day, who he was juggling a ball like with his feet and then went off the shoulder and then shot the ball over the backboard and swish? That might have been Doncic. And because their names are so foreign for me, literally, they're so foreign, you know, that, like, I don't know. But I saw a highlight of that the other day, and it's something that popped in my head. It was just magnificent to be able to watch something like that. He was like in the corner about to go back in the locker room before the game, and it was during pregame. I looked at that and was like, whoa.
Well, you're going to need a lot more of those then.
You're going to need a lot more. You're right about that. Crazy shots, all the rest of it. I mean, I didn't necessarily think that Denver was going to end up being a large contender, and I have to get back with my boy Donahoe Seth, Mr. Seth Donahoe, you know, for more on the ball don't lie, to catch up.
Who did, though? Who thought that they were going to be a contender last year? Who thought they were going to beat the Clippers? No, nobody thought they were going to beat the Clippers.
Well, and they've still got the whole play-in type deal that's going on, right? They still have the play-in playoff portion before you make it to the actual playoff.
So they might not even get in.
I mean, it would make sense that they're not, because I didn't think that Denver, you know, we had the standings up last time, and we talked about how I believe that
they were fourth. They were fourth in the West.
Oof.
They were fourth in the West, so they got a long way to fall.
Well, they have a long way to fall, but they still might end up making it in a play-in, being with where they are right now, because the Lakers were fifth the last time that we had on last week's show. And we had talked about whether or not they were going to be able to continue. And right now, I think they've been like, I don't know, they've won 4 out of the past 7 or something. So being in that,
AD
the Lakers could continue to pick up, but they were only, I believe, 6 games behind first place. So it's a tangled web we weave when it comes to the West. And when it comes to the West, you just have to be careful that you're not dropping some of those games, but oftentimes you're playing against some of those teams that are also in that top 8. Like, you look at Dame and them guys from Portland, and it seems to me that they could definitely keep crawling up, but Portland has to continue to win very tough games, and I just feel as if they're going to end up being very tired, you know, when it's all said and done. But you're right. Denver could fall out, but that's a long way to fall. And if we're coming up. It's coming up fast, man. It's coming up fast. So they could end up still being a 7 or 8, but then obviously you're going to be running into Utah. You're going to be running into, the Clippers. You're going to be running into, you could be running into LA. It's a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of unknowns. So I guess we'll see. It's Denver and what you can do with the team, but obviously it's upsetting to be able to see that Jamal Murray's not, he's not going to be around anymore.
Definitely. We miss young pups.
LaMarcus Aldridge, though. LaMarcus Aldridge, want to be able to recognize the fact that he had 15 years playing, and the majority of those with the Spurs.
No. I would say most of them with Portland.
Really?
Yeah.
So he didn't get a championship then? Because
No.
I know he was with the Spurs at some point. He did not win a championship with Tim Duncan.
No.
That's upsetting.
No.
So, you know what? And I do recall that they said on ESPN that he was going to end up, that was his best shot to be able to get a championship, was with Brooklyn. And obviously that's upsetting. And if you look up some of the statistics with black males in particular and black folks in particular, that I don't know what it is with this heart, it being a heart condition, but heart disease is more prone in black individuals. But to go 15 years going as hard as you are and then come to find out now?
So let me ask you a question. 15 years in, you find out you got a heart condition. This your best chance at a ring. Do you stick it out?
It was so sudden that I almost thought it was an excuse. For me, no, you don't stick it out.
No,
you went this long without a championship. To me, it's kind of winning money that you or getting money that you didn't know you had. Like, I didn't have it otherwise, so why would I do anything differently?
Yeah, but but it's not money. It's a ring, and it's something you play your whole career for. And you're right, you play 15 years with a bad ticker, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So what's another 4 months?
Yeah. and I like, that being able to push through, but what was it that we don't know if he fell out at practice one day, if he walked off clutching his chest, how exacerbated this condition has been or has gotten over time. Some individuals, have enlarged hearts, and they will continue to grow as time moves forward. And I don't know, man, but I just pray that I don't ever end up in that situation. That's why, we talked about some fitness goals and things like that, a few weeks back about, eating better and being able to work out, and just like, you've been working out. These guys in the NBA and these freak athletes of sort, they're in peak physical condition. And for over 15 years, he's been doing his thing, and then come to find out now that this is what's happening. And that is deeply disturbing, because what changed? And I'm sure we'll hear more on this in the future, but it's interesting.
I got a theory, but I don't want to say it on the Crockpot.
Okay. We're gonna have to get to that one offline then. I do believe that right now we're running real thin on some time. So what we're going to go ahead and do, I thank you very much, Pretty Boy. Man, we went heavy on the segments there. Didn't mean for that to happen, but we're going to go ahead and take a brief break. When we come back, we are going to be highlighting the protest in Minnesota and what that meant for some of the sports teams there, how the Twins recognized through a post that out of respect for what was happening there in the city and the state of Minnesota, how they were going to be postponing games. In addition to that, we're going to be taking a look into the Jake Paul versus the Ben Askren fight taking place on Saturday. When we come back on the Crockpot, you're watching On Score On Air. Back to the Crockpot and stirring it up, mixing it up, and it's getting real hot, baby. Now, something that I wanted to be sure that I was sharing today and on this week's episode was the unfortunate mishaps that led to protests in the city of Minneapolis And what that meant for some of the sports teams there, as games were postponed between the Twins, the Timberwolves, and the Wild, and how the Twins addressed that, and that they weren't going to be hosting. A word from Doc Rivers stating that, you know, it's an improbable and that it is an upsetting time, not only in the lives of Black Americans, but also in the lives of all Americans. Right now, as we're seeing events happen and unfold in certain places during a very high tension time. And the Twins had put up a post noting that they were going to be canceling and postponing the games with other individuals, and they also put when those games would next be played. And there was a quote in a full post that they have that was noting what was going to end up happening and why that they were doing it. So they were recognizing that for the society, for the community, and in the public. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at that right now. And I just want to note that there's been things said in the past about how maybe some guys should, shut up and dribble, right? I believe we're past that to this point. It's important that you know that just as we are humans, or that students are students before they are athletes, right? We are humans before we are athletes, or before, politicians, or before our jobs, right? So it's important for others to be able to recognize this. And I love that franchises in this, particular city and in this place have taken ownership over that. And they're being humans first. They're putting humans first. They're putting lives first. And I'm not sure if we do have that graphic, but if we do, I want to go ahead and just throw that up here on the screen so we can go ahead and take a look at what the Minnesota Twins had to put out. And as you can see up here on the screen, they had, noted that for the community and for the public and for, the society, that they're doing this in light of the Dante Wright shooting that resulted from the officer who had felt that they were pulling their taser rather than their gun. And very sad. I believe that individual in their early 20s. So it's important that not everyone just look at this and say, oh, okay, oh man, we can't go to the game tonight. Everything's open back up and people's priorities might be a little bit different. But regardless of what it is that's happening, and as a matter of fact, it was the exact quote as I read, out of respect for the tragic events that occurred yesterday in Brooklyn Center and following additional details in this evolving situation, the Minnesota Twins have decided it is in the best interest of our fans, staff, players, and community to not play today's game. One of the questions that I thought to myself, should there be more teams who are postponing events? I don't necessarily believe so. However, and I need you to take this very seriously, if they are to postpone, if LeBron was to say, hey, we need to do this, what would happen if everyone in professional sports, or if people in professional sports decided, hey, we're not going to do this until we get whatever this is figured out? Because it's not just one city. It's not just one state. This is happening all over the place. And it hasn't just been happening in the United States of America. This stuff's been happening all over the world. But in particular, in Minneapolis, when this happened almost to the year of the death of George Floyd, and given that that individual who committed that crime is on trial right now, and then something else like this happens, it's just very, very sad. So for organizations, I applaud, like Minnesota, the Twins, and between them and the Wild, and for the Timberwolves, I applaud them to be able to say that it's huge that they did that, and I know they're resuming games and things now. But that was something I wanted to point out And I can't run past that. Not on the Crockpot, not ever. So, and Doc Rivers was the person who stated, I think we have to stop saying it's frustrating for Black Americans. I think we should be frustrated as all Americans. So I'll leave you with that. As we roll into Jake Paul versus Ben Askren in a boxing match that's coming up tomorrow. Wait, today's Friday. Yep, Saturday, the 17th, all right, of April. Extremely excited for this. And as we rolled at the beginning of the Crockpot, we're going to go ahead and give you some added flavor once again with the knockouts from the UFC. Now Ben Askren, all right, had a flying knee to the head in the first 5 seconds of his matchup with Jorge Masvidal. Ben Askren I can't believe his head wasn't split open. I don't know if we've got it again, but let's go ahead and roll that knockout again for Ben Askren, and we're gonna go ahead and pair that with the knockout of Nate Robinson. Now I know what Jake Paul is thinking. Jake Paul is thinking, I'm gonna do this to this guy again. I'm gonna do this to this cat again. All right. First you got the flying knee. All right. So you're about done, dude. I mean, it's over with. It's done. All right. First you get the flying knee, and he's clearly just out. And look, man, the additional punches. Oh, geez. It's, whew. And if you saw that fight initially and the reactions from the crowd, and then Jorge Masvidal just starts clowning this man. And we'll pick up on some more of this as we get into and then recap the fight between Masvidal and Usman, which is going to be taking place in Jacksonville, Florida, next Saturday on the 24th. And along with that is going to be the co-main event, which is the Rose Namajunas versus Zhang Weili fight. And there's comments about communism that Namajunas had put forward, and she did not apologize for those, which is completely fine. But back to this fight between Jake Paul and Ben Askren. And Askren has got to be feeling like, dude, that's never going to happen to me again. But Ben Askren has also got to be saying to himself, this is not going to happen to me. And, oh my goodness, you can't let this happen. You cannot let this happen. I think I mentioned it on episode 2 of the Crockpot, and this is 2 months ago, that I don't like Jake Paul. And Pretty Boy had asked me, yo, can you beat him though? And I think at that time I had some reservations, but I've been working out here recently. I haven't been in the gym too much, but I know that I know we have a few plugs. I know we have a few connections. I believe that we're working on something with Cold Blood, so maybe we just got to get in the ring again to be able to figure out some stuff so then I can challenge, old Jake Paul. Because Mr. TikTok, I ain't messing with you, man. And the fact that Ben Askren's actually going to get in the ring with you and go head-to-head for I don't know how many rounds that is, I just hope that he lasts, and I hope we're going to be able to see a good match, because there's just absolutely no way that you should be knocking this man out. And I really hope that that's not the case here, because, man, it's bad news. It's bad news for the Bears. It's bad news for everybody if Ben Askren takes a flying knee to the head, which he won't, but there's also a clause in the contract that Ben Askren is not going to use any MMA style to be able to combat with Jake Paul. Otherwise, he will be disqualified. So I'm going to be in Vegas next week, and I wish I was going to be there this weekend, because I would have money going down on this to see who was going to get knocked out when, or when this fight was going to end. But it's different because Jake Paul has been boxing now for a little while. He considers himself at least a pro boxer. And for me, nah. I mean, you knocked out Nate Robinson, you knocked out some other people. So, look, dude, I really can't see it happening. I can't see it happening, but just know that Jake Paul has what they consider as his reach being 78 inches versus Ben Askren 73. And Jake Paul also outweighs him 200 pounds to Ben Askren's 170 pounds. So I'll leave you with that moving forward. And it looks like we're going to have to be taking a to-go box with the Crockpot. But before we do, I want to go ahead and run down the Namajunas and Zhang Weili comments. So, to give you a little bit of background on this, Zhang Weili is the champ in the strawweight division at 115 pounds in the UFC. They have the co-main event next week prior to the fight with Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal. So, Rose Namajunas, a great a fighter from Lithuania, it's made comments about how the fact that dead better than red, which was focused on the fact that Zhang is from China and that is a communist nation, and that those kind of things she's using as a force in order to be able to motivate her to win this match, which I think is great. But don't get it twisted. Don't just because we're here in America and that this is a democratic republic, right? There are people who have left their nations and migrated here to be able to live in a free society, to have the freedom from the persecution in which they lived in. And the Lithuanian fighter, Rose Namajunas, who's been great in the past, noted that she took inspiration from a movie called The Other Dream Team, which highlighted the Lithuanian basketball team who went to the Barcelona Olympics to compete after the fall of the Soviet Union. She knows that her family's been persecuted by communism, so if that's more power for her to be motivated to fight against someone who's from a communist nation, fine. Though Zhang Weili said that she, appreciates Namajunas and she would like to fight her, let that fuel the fire for whoever you want, but it shouldn't necessarily be a story just because someone doesn't like communism. How about we just get in the octagon and we fight? I'm not really going to say much more, but I'm going to leave you with a few things heading into next week. Make sure you tune in for Prolific Sports. That's going to be coming to you next Friday with an all-new episode and a draft preview. And also, looking forward to highlighting the fight between Ben Askren and Jake Paul from this weekend. Next week on the Crockpot, before I head out to Vegas. I appreciate everybody for coming on, but we've got a crock or sit. Got a crock or sit first. And my first crock or sit for today is Askren knocks out Jake Paul. What do you say, pretty boy?
I'm a crock.
You got a crock?
Yeah,
Askren knocking out Jake Paul.
Yeah, I like pros. I don't like Joes.
I like it. Let's throw it in the crock pot. Throw it right in the crock pot. Next up, I've got Aaron Donald gets suspended as a result of these assault charges. We've seen it happen with other athletes in the past. Aaron Donald gets suspended. Crock it or sit it?
I'm a crock it. At least one game. They always striking or stroking somebody for no reason. He didn't throw a punch. He actually tried to help the guy, and they're going to make some excuse to at least give him 1 or 2 games or something stupid. So, yeah, it's ridiculous.
I'm going to sit it. I'm going to sit it because I hope that and I know, and meanwhile, you might call it a double standard or something, but I feel strongly as if, he didn't even know the guy. It was an altercation at the club. You can't tell these people that these things can't happen, and if the video evidence does prove, then I hope nothing happens to Donald because he seems to me like a good dude. I wouldn't throw a ball at him, and this guy shouldn't have either. Regardless of the circumstances, he shouldn't be suspended. I hope he's not, so I'm going to sit it for now, and we're going to keep it out of the crock pot. None of that trash in there. Next up is more NFL teams opt out of voluntary workouts. Crock it or sit it?
Oh, I'm crocking that. There's going to be multiple teams follow this up, especially if the numbers continue to rise. I don't think NFL players are with the deal of mishandling in this situation.
Well, I would have to agree with you. We're going to throw that back right into the crock pot and let you know that there are going to be teams who then follow. It's not just going to be terrible teams, but maybe other teams who had some great success, maybe some teams down in the South. And I'll tell you what, I just don't let it be Houston. Houston, you need as much practice as you can get. You should be breaking every rule in COVID protocol to get yourselves together because it's going to take. New York Jets, you should not opt out of voluntary workouts. Don't do it. You're worse than the Broncos. Don't. Crocking it. There's going to be more teams that opt out. It better not be Houston or the Jets. Last one. Brooklyn Nets make the NBA championship. Crock it or sit it?
Oh, man. I'm a crock it. They'll make it. You know what? I reserve the right to change my mind. I'm going to hate on them to the end. I'm sitting this. I'm going to hate on them to the end. I don't believe in them. I don't think they have what it takes. I'm going to stick with my gut.
There you have it. We're going to be sitting down the Brooklyn Nets and throwing them away. They are spoiled. And that's a double entendre. All right, that's all we have for you today. Here on the Score on Air Network, you are watching the Crockpot. We'll see you next week.